ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
The Star Fantasy League Show puts you in control of your own team. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, and co-host SFL CEO Zach Stanley and Nick Steblenko. The Star Fantasy League Show is on the air now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team. I'm your host today, Matthew Footer, filling in for Jonathan Sprung this week so far, and I am joined by Star Fantasy League's CEO, Zach Stanley. How you doing, Zach?
I'm not doing too bad. You know, it's a lovely day here in Rochester, New York.
That it is.
The last one.
Yeah,
I think.
unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure as well.
There's supposed to be snow on Saturday.
That is unfortunate. We aren't joined today by Teddy Bear 2 Nick Steblenko, so we're slowly losing people off the show.
Well, that's okay, because he was wrong about what happened in last night's game anyways.
That he was.
And so were you.
Yeah, it was terrible. I couldn't understand why that happened and why it happened to me. Well, I can understand why it happened to me, but Zach, of course, is talking about the Monday night debacle, I guess you would call it, for Dallas. Dallas obviously lost to Washington last night, and let's get right in and actually just talk about this game and what exactly went on.
Well, first of all, I think it's kind of funny that everybody thinks that these games are somehow shoe-in games. These are divisional matchups. These teams hate each other. No matter what, it's a huge deal for them to play against each other every single year. And that's the type of situation that Washington came into this game with. They came in with intensity. They believed in what they were doing. Colt McCoy played a solid game, and they just went from there. I mean, what I've been talking about, what I was really surprised about, is the Dallas Cowboys suddenly deciding to fade their own game plan, to go away from everything that's been working for them so far this year and give DeMarco Murray 19 carries.
Well, coming in this season, we figured, well, at least I figured, Dallas was just going to be throwing the ball all over the field. Murray would have been a factor, but I figured their offense was just going to be lighting people up, throwing the ball, and they've obviously gone 100% against that. They probably have the best offensive line in the league, and Murray rushed for his seventh straight 100-yard game last night.
I mean, when does your fantasy running back usually get screwed over? He gets screwed over when the team is down 14, 17, 20 points, and they need to go to the air on literally every play, unless, of course, he is a pass-catching running back and you end up getting some of those points there. But Dallas was never down more than 7 in this game. They didn't end up being down 7 until later in the game, and yet they still felt the need to go to the air 34 times compared to the 19 rushes.
Yeah, I mean, Murray had 19 rushes. Everyone else, nothing really factored. Murray had 23 total touches for 221 yards. It's 10 yards basically a touch. Like, that's unheard of, on a week-to-week basis, especially for a guy who has been carrying the workload.
He is the guy that has become the focal point of their offense, and it has been extremely successful for them. It's made them a lot less up and down, a lot less topsy-turvy, where you need Tony Romo to go off in a game. You need Des Bryant to go for 150 yards to win. You need Jason Witten to be locked in and get 8 or 9 receptions. None of that needs to happen anymore, which is fantastic for them. It allows them to be much more consistent and have a much more balanced attack. They let go of that last night for pretty much no reason whatsoever.
Well, yeah, definitely. And, obviously one of the big stories that came out of it was Tony Romo returning to the game.
Which was cute, that was nice and fun for everybody. And
yeah,
the crowd got to cheer, and it was like, wow, he's coming back from the dead, and it's unbelievable. And then the fairy tale was just not completed, and it shouldn't have been because they lost this game.
Yeah, they couldn't put him away. They had multiple chances. DeMarco Murray fumbled the ball multiple times. They just couldn't put the dagger in a team that was basically waiting around to lose, and Washington just did enough to win that game.
And you start feeling like Dallas has finally figured this thing out. That's what it felt like a couple weeks ago. Their defense is playing a lot better than they have in quite some time, and they've got this massive running attack. They've showed glimpses of this running attack, but DeMarco Murray always ended up getting injured in previous years. So they never got to go through the whole season with him healthy. They have an opportunity to do that now. They squandered it in this game. I still think that they're going to be all right, though.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably compete for the division still against the Philadelphia Eagles. And they should be able to squeak in the playoffs as long as they're not playing a do-or-die game in December, because we all know how that ends up for them.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Colt McCoy, who seems to have really grown up and is just playing like a solid, reliable backup veteran. Mm-hmm. And he's putting himself in a position for opportunities in the future, whether it's being a direct backup or getting some, shoddy start opportunities for a random team. But he looked much more impressive to me taking the opportunities, running with the ball, which I never realized that Colt McCoy had the speed that I saw last night. I don't know where that was in Cleveland. Maybe he just never utilized it. He said he's more comfortable in this offense than he's been in any offense that he's been in. It was just exciting to watch a guy that clearly had put a lot of effort into getting prepped for this type of situation and went out there and executed. I mean, when you look at his yards per throw averages, I mean, he got 299 yards on 25 completions. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
For a guy who, I think this was his first start in 3 seasons, I believe, after getting knocked out, for injury-wise. And, he obviously found the top target there, who I think he is the top target now, in Deshaun Jackson, who went for 136 yards. Garcon only managed to make 4 catches, and it's kind of been a disappointment this season. Yeah,
Garcon has been one of the big fantasy follies this year. To me, it's had a lot to do with Robert Griffin going down. Just because Robert Griffin seemed to love Garcon as a mid-range target, and now you've got 2 guys, especially Kirk Cousins when he initially came in, that just love to throw the ball up in the air.
Yep.
And Deshaun Jackson is that guy. You need a guy who can throw consistently and solid. I think, to me, some of what we've seen throughout the play of Cousins, and I think, fortunately, McCoy was able to have a game like this, but we've seen that RG3 is a good quarterback, and that his spot is more than safe, and there should never have been the discussion that there was about Kirk Cousins to me.
No, pretty much. All right, speaking of fantasy follies, it is Tuesday. It is waiver wire. Every Tuesday we break down some guys for you who might be available in your leagues. Some guys who might not be available, just depends on your leagues. It is pretty late in the season, so you're not really going to find a lot of opportunity, but there are actually a few guys that I do like this week. It's pretty thin along the QB and tight end option, but there is one QB that I'm interested in. That is Alex Smith playing against the New York Jets this week. We saw what Kyle Orton did last week, and I think it's going to be a similar situation for Smith.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. The one thing that would concern me in this game is if they end up getting up significantly in the first half because Jamal Charles just takes over the game, and then they just kind of run it out with him and Nile Davis. That's a possibility for me. But, the table is set for him to have a solid game. I would say somewhere in the range of 225, 2 touchdowns. I think that's very possible for him, which is good when you're looking at a bye replacement. A lot of guys out this week. Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Jay Cutler, all on buys.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. So there's a good chance that you're going to need to look to somebody, and he's a definite option.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest bye week since they've had since week 3 or week 4 when like Denver and Arizona and those guys were out. So you're definitely going to be looking for replacement guys this week.
Keep an eye on Eli Manning. If people got a little caught up with that, seeing that he had his 27-0 loss to the Eagles, then they went into the bye week. Maybe somebody let go of him there in your league. And also, there were a lot of people that dropped Robert Griffin at the beginning of the year. And if somebody hasn't picked him up in the last couple of weeks and he's still sitting out there, now's the time to grab him, because if it's not this week, it's going to be next that he's back.
Yeah, definitely. I think the real gold for this week, like pretty much any week, is in the running backs. We talked about a few guys last week, your Traveris Cadet, obviously Denard Robinson. Most of those guys are probably gone in your leagues. If they're not, please pick them up, especially Denard Robinson. He looks like he's going to be the featured back there. A guy I'm interested in is Jonas Gray in New England. And I say that with hesitation because we all know Bill Belichick, hates fantasy owners and never really likes to give one guy the bulk of the carries. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I actually got the NFL Game Rewind.
Yeah.
I purchased that this past week because I wanted to watch some of these games, get a better eye on how everybody was actually playing rather than just the numbers. And one of the first games that I watched was to see how good Jonas Gray actually was. He looked very solid. Mm-hmm. He gets a lot of yards after contact. He's got a pretty solid burst. The one thing that I don't like is that he's got Denver coming up, which we saw a guy, Brandon Oliver, who has been stunning in a couple of the contests that he's played, just get absolutely dominated by the Denver line, who has been pretty much owning every running back they're going up against.
Yeah, it will be a tough matchup.
That doesn't mean that you shouldn't pick him up.
No, I agree. If you're looking at him at this point, your team probably is in a desperation mode, so you might as well roll with him because you don't know what else you're going to have to play for running backs. Is there any other guys you're interested in looking at this week possibly?
Charles Sims, especially in keepers. I think he's a great option. We're going to see something happen with Doug Martin. I'm not sure what it's going to be.
Yep.
But one way or another, if he's still on the team, dramatically decrease in carries, I would think. Just judging by the fact that the Bucs need to give up on this season and start looking forward because they're not going to do anything this year. Doug Martin doesn't seem to be that guy anymore that he was early in his career, and this is a guy that they drafted. What was it, third round?
Yeah, third round pick.
And they should be giving him the opportunity. Bobby Rainey has done pretty well, and I'm sure he'll get some share of that. But if you're in a keeper league, Charles Sims is a great guy to pick up.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that you definitely roll with. And like you said, Rainey might be a good option for next week if you're just looking for a filler with one of these guys you might have on a bye. Jump into the wide receivers. I think there's a bunch of guys available. We talked about a few last week. Martavis Bryant. Obviously, if you picked him up last week, he won off against Indianapolis. A guy I'm looking at is a guy on the other side of the ball, actually, Dante Moncrief, filling in for Reggie Wayne, who was ruled out. It's kind of on a week-to-week basis, but had a 100-yard career game, and it was a relief to see a youth movement there that's continuing with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, he looked very good. We're going to have to see what happens. There's no way that once Reggie Wayne is healthy, he doesn't get his position back and that he's not still a target of Andrew Luck's. But this is a guy to keep an eye on because he could end up having a larger role moving forward. I'm looking at Allen Robinson, who the Jaguars are putting themselves in positions every game to have to come back. He's scored in 2 straight. He's had 50 yards in 4 straight. And he's caught 4+ balls in 7 straight.
Yeah, I wrote about him a few weeks ago as the guy who was going to be, the number one guy there.
And he's still sitting out there on the waiver wire in a bunch of leagues.
Yeah, Cecil Shorts can't stay healthy. Alan Hearns was basically a flash in the pan for like 2 weeks, and Robinson has, clearly established himself as the guy.
And Marquise Lee literally doesn't exist anymore.
Who?
I don't know.
That's a John Sprung right there. Yeah. But one other guy to think about is Josh Gordon as well. Remember, he is coming off suspension in a few weeks. But coming out of the break, we're going to jump in and do Jonald's mailbag. We're going to talk about whatever you want to hear about. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show here on 105.5 The Team.
The Star Fantasy League Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Jonald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
We are back here on the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team. I'm your host, Matthew Footer, filling in for Jonathan Sprung, better known, and I am joined by CEO Zach Stanley.
I can't decide whether I miss him or not. Like sometimes I kind of miss him, but then other times I'm just really happy not to have to see him.
Yeah, I mean, filling in for this hosting spot, I guess.
It's hard to tell somebody that they're wrong all the time,
Yeah.
That's what's really brutal.
It really is. But, I'm sure he'll be back tomorrow. We'll be happy to see him. We'll put on that smile of, you're back in the office.
Yeah, maybe he'll talk about picking up LeGarrette Blount like he was at the beginning of the year. I don't know.
God.
I don't know.
But, I mean, do you have anybody else we could talk about?
I have a couple guys that we should look at. The one thing is, if you're in complete desperation mode, which, judging by the way that a lot of things have gone this year, I mean, I've had leagues with Adrian Peterson and Rashad Jennings, tons of problems, Ray Rice, all sorts of issues. Obviously that's a bigger issue, yes. but still, our fantasy teams have been hurt by these morons.
Yes.
Okay? And one of the guys that I have had waiting in the wings in case something went wrong is one of the backups that I liked is Roy Helu. And he's gotten some carries every week, and he's been involved in the passing game every week because Alfred Morris just isn't that involved in the passing game, isn't a great pass-catching running back. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys that if the guys that we have talked about aren't out there and you're looking to get 7 or 8 points and possibly get in the end zone, he's been pretty solid every week to get 7 or 8 points.
Yeah, I like what he's doing. He's kind of in that Anton Smith mode where he might get one big player. He gets that big play that kind of makes him fantasy relevant. So.
I always thought that he had enough talent, enough ground and pound ability to be a starting running back. He just never has gotten the opportunity in Washington.
Yeah, Morris hasn't had the best options this year scoring wise, and he just hasn't been the guy that we expected to see coming out of his last 2 years. But I think that's a good option. You got anybody else you'd want to toss out there?
Well, somehow, I mean, we call this the Idiot League because there are tons of people out there that are in their own personal Idiot League.
10-team standard leagues. That's what we call them.
That's true. But no, these are 12 teams where this happens.
Oh, jeez.
And people are just left on the waiver wire. Nobody knows what is going on. They're fewer and far between now because there are so many different media outlets where you can literally just look at it for 30 minutes and know what's going on, even if you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But Brandon LaFell is still available in some chunky percentage of ESPN leagues, which is ridiculous, and he's a must pick up at this point. Very angry with Brandon LaFell because I had him in almost every league to start the season. I really thought that he was going to be the big dark horse out of New England. I loved what I saw out of him on tape in Carolina. And then he flops the first 3 weeks, and I get rid of him in almost every league.
I don't think you're the only one who did that.
No, and I don't feel bad about it. I'm mad at him. It's his fault as far as I'm concerned.
It really is. All right.
And then also Devontae Adams too.
Yeah,
he's still out there in some spots. He's a guy that I'm really excited about in keeper leagues for the future because he's got all the talent in the world, and he's got the right guy throwing to him. Now that Jarrett Boykin is back and healthy, he is the clear number 3 over him. Boykin's not going in at all. So he's a great guy to have.
Yeah, Adam's definitely a good guy coming out of the bye that you would like to have on your roster. All right, we're going to jump right into John's mailbag. Remember, if you have any questions regarding sports, anything related, if you just want to ask us questions about ourselves, I mean, we've gotten those before.
I think it's called the Bag Day Footington now, actually.
Ooh, I like that. I haven't come up with anything catchy yet. I'm not catchy like
I literally just gave it to you.
Exactly. We're going to go with that.
Bag Day Footington.
Bad Day Footington. All right. You can tweet us at SFL Show. Paul D wrote in, simple question. Can Kansas City force a Game 7 by winning tonight, or will they never be royal? Oh, okay. I see.
Isn't that interesting?
That's catchy. But, honestly, though, this is a huge game tonight. Obviously, that's an understatement. But I am really interested to see if San Francisco is able to win their third World Series in 5 seasons, which would be basically a modern-day dynasty.
Are you telling me that you're rooting for them? Is
no,
that what you're telling me?
No, I'm rooting for Kansas City. I'd love to see the underdog go, but I'm just interested to see if San Francisco is able to pull this out.
I need some fresh blood at the top, okay? I'm tired of it. This is a huge opportunity for Kansas City to take home their first championship as a city since '85, and they're minus 138. Pitching Yordano Ventura against a Jake Peavy who pretty much can only last 5 innings.
Yeah, he's never.
It doesn't really matter if he's even pitching really well. He can't pitch more than that.
Never gone more than 5 2/3 in any postseason start wherever he's pitched.
Now that's not to say that there aren't very good options behind him in the bullpen, and that San Francisco has a litany of pitchers that they can bring in. But still, if you're able to you want to get to Jake Peavy early. I think we're going to start seeing how this game is going to go if the Royals are able to get to him in the first few innings. I love Ventura. I like the way he's been pitching. He's just going to get better. I'm rooting hard for as you can see, I'm rooting hard for the Royals.
I see that. Teams down 3-2 in the best of 7 with the new 2-3-2 format are 13-16 all time, but they have won 8 of the last 10. And actually only 4 road teams since 1980 have ever won Game 6. So, history's kind of in the Royals' favor going right now, towards them winning.
Plus, what's better than a Game 7 in the World Series?
Exactly.
Anything?
No,
Nothing.
Especially with a franchise that hasn't been in the playoffs in 30 seasons.
That place is going to be bumping tonight. Definitely some nervous undertones to it, though. If the Giants are able to get up early, 1-0 in the first inning, something like that, this place will go quiet like a vacuum.
I like that one. That's a good one. But one more stat I'd like to throw at you. Since 1982, teams that win Game 6 or in the LCS or the World Series are 14-1 in Game 7. So this is the chance for the Giants to close it out.
Kansas City's been a momentum team. That's one of the big reasons that they've been able to get to this point. They rode momentum all throughout the playoffs. They got to get it back, and the perfect time to do it is at home.
Definitely. Who do you like tonight?
I'm taking the Royals.
All right, I'm going to stick with you.
I'm taking Ventura.
I like the Royals as well.
I'm not betting on Jake Peavy. It's just not going to happen.
That's a loser's bet right there. Nick C. wrote in, Warriors co-owner, I'm assuming he's talking about the Golden State Warriors, Peter Guber, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is the latest head honcho in the hot seat. This is the third incident in less than a year with an owner. Does the NBA need to offer sensitivity training to the owners of this league? Did you hear about this story?
I did. I read up on this. It's mostly idiotic to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost just stupid to the point of me not being able to care too much.
Yes.
I'm like, with the people that I hang out with, my friends, anybody drops a little racist joke or remark, they get a pretty good glare from me.
Yeah. And
I'll make a little issue of it. This, though, I just like... It's like the hunt for exposure is really what it is. It's just like it's people going above and beyond to make sure that anybody that slips up at all, is punished as much as possible for it. I mean, we know that this guy is not going to drop out as one of the owners.
No.
They're not going to be able to force him to do that.
Nope.
Nobody is going to try to. And to be honest, with what has gone on with these consecutive issues, this is at the bottom of the heap. Yeah. And I think I would dare say that the league, much more importantly, the players, are kind of tired of this crap at this point.
I'm tired.
But I don't think this is one of those ones that's enough to get everybody all up in arms. If people need to put forth energy to show that somebody that has done wrong gets punished properly, then they will. To me, it's just not going to happen here. I'm not saying that I don't have a problem with it, because I do have a problem with it. I don't think you need to say anything like that, and I think it's ridiculous. But I just don't think anything's going to come of it.
I think it's just more stupidity, not in the sense of like, oh, why would you say that? It's more of like, this guy's just not educated enough to understand what was going on. I mean, he said he's learning Australian, which is not even an actual language, and he's talking about other languages that none of his players actually speak. So what's the point?
And then he tried to say Yiddish. He tried to say that instead of saying Hoodish, he said Yiddish.
Yeah, the email magically corrected
right,
that. Right,
somehow. Everybody has that as autocorrect on their Microsoft Word, right. But, it's just, to me, this is something that you brought up with me today, and it's an interesting topic to talk about because so much has gone on with it. But if you hadn't brought it up to me today, I wouldn't have known about it because I didn't see it on SportsCenter when I was watching it. Nobody's talking about it. This is just one of those things that's kind of going to get floated away.
And that's the exact reason why I brought this question up that was sent to us, because no one is talking about it, where maybe if the previous issues hadn't happened, this would be a top story because we wouldn't have seen something along this level, where obviously this is not even close to what Donald Sterling said or Ferry in Atlanta, but it's still something that's newsworthy and noteworthy.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is an issue within the league. To me, it's an issue across many sports in many different countries that we're trying to work to solve, especially here at home. To me, you need something that is a little bit more impactful than this, though, for people to start getting up in arms and say this. If he's going to still be in the front office and doing whatever he's doing, which is what's going to be the case, then nothing's going to happen because an example would need to be set. And a group that would have to get up in arms enough to say that we need to set an example on this guy. We need to force him to resign. And he just didn't make enough of a dent. Yeah.
I think the story kind of dies pretty quickly. So we're going to move along. Tim J. wrote in, we're at the halfway point of the NFL season. It's kind of crazy to think about it, unfortunately.
It's sad.
Which NFL coach is most likely to be shown the door? I wrote down some names of guys, and I just want your quick opinion on this. We're going to do a rapid fire. Rex Ryan. Thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah? that's pretty much.
Is that my rapid opinion?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, Rex Ryan is garbage to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that should have gone on 2 years ago as far as I'm concerned. They haven't done a good job from top to bottom building this organization. And to say that, they needed to get better players and they needed to provide them with more talent. He's a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. They've clamored for that the whole time. And he has had years where his defense has been fantastic, and it got him far enough with a bad quarterback for the team to actually look very good. But there's no future in that, and there's clearly a major issue with the connection between general manager and coach.
Yeah, definitely. That was more than I thought you were going to talk about, Rex Ryan. I was all right with the no part, but all right. Lovie Smith down in Tampa Bay.
Lovie Smith, I'm not worried about.
Okay.
No, I mean Lovie Smith just came in here. I think he needs a fair shake. I think that there is too much going on. Too many talent questions. They don't have a solid quarterback. Their defense is absolutely miserable. Their running back is nothing what they expected him to be, and Vincent Jackson is plain old, and Mike Evans isn't ready.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't have a problem with him.
First year guy, I think he gets the break. Unlike Rex Ryan, who's been around, been given him multiple chances.
Let him build the team. If you want to bring in a new coach, let him try to build a team.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot more guys out there, but I think that's enough time.
Mike Smith.
Yeah, that's definitely
Mike
another
Smith.
one. All right, coming out of the break, we're going to give you our NBA predictions for the 2014-15 season. Oh, my God.
I can't wait.
This is going to be interesting. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on 105.5 The Team.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League Show with Jonathan, Zach, and Nick. Only on The Team.
You are wrong, Cage Guy. I love saying that. It's probably the best part of the day here, unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding.
Nick needed a break anyways.
Yeah, exactly. We are back on the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team. I am your host, Matthew Footer, filling in for Jonathan Sprung. Today I am joined by Mr. Zach Stanley, providing his expert analysis as well.
I'm usually the guy that is on the business trip or is wherever, doing whatever, and not able to be here and do a little bit of an alternate lineup for us here today.
Yeah.
So it's a good time.
I'm having a blast. I got no complaints whatsoever.
I don't have to hear any more annoying voices in the room. I just get to talk a lot about what I think. So that's pretty cool.
All right. Like we said before the break, we're going to get into our NBA awards preview, predictions, analysis. It's going to be kind of interesting because, as I talked about earlier this week, I'm not the most inept when it comes to NBA basketball. But Zach is going to provide the expert analysis.
You're not the most inept?
I'm not the most inept.
You're
not the
a
best.
little inept?
I'm a little inept. I can't speak. I don't know what I'm talking about. This show's going down the drain.
Well, at least you're not the most inept of anybody.
All right, definitely.
That would be Nick.
Yes. All right. We're going to talk about a few different things. Who's going to win the conferences, MVP, Rookie of the Year, some surprise teams, guys you might like. So we're gonna actually dive right in. We'll start right with the Eastern Conference and go for the for the big boys. Who do you have in your Eastern Conference Finals?
This was extremely difficult for me.
Yep.
I had to think a lot about it because there's a lot of different things going into how this whole story evolves in the East. I'm going with the Chicago Bulls.
Woo!
Which, of course, you're very happy about. You're decked in Bulls gear.
I am.
They're playing tomorrow. They got a couple big games coming up.
Yeah.
But for me, this Bulls team is extremely talented. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of depth, a lot of different guys that they can go to, a lot of growth coming in from both Taj Gibson, still growing and still developing as a player. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Butler, still growing. I don't think we've even seen nearly close to his ceiling. A defensive specialist. The big issue in recent years with the Bulls has been the fact, well, obviously Derrick Rose being gone, but not enough scoring around. Yeah. Even when Derrick Rose was at his peak, there wasn't enough guys around that were contributing to get that score up. And when it came down into half-court crunch time, they couldn't come through and get it done. They always could on the defensive end. Tom Thibodeau, defensive specialist. Now, I think they've got it. I think they've got what it takes. When you have a guy like Pau Gasol come in, Jimmy Butler slowly improving, and a lot of quickness from him as well to the hoop, and Derrick Rose coming back healthy, I think they've got what it takes. I really do. And the thing for me is Cleveland.
That's okay. I can't speak on the show either, so it's quite all right.
Cleveland's going to have to put it all together. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be easy. They got a lot of different pieces in place.
Or Miami of the
different
North.
Different types, right? Miami of the North, the new Miami.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to have to go with the team that has, in my opinion, has gotten realistically better. If Derrick Rose is able to become who he was they'll be all set, I think.
Well, they did a lot of things in the offseason that I really liked. Even getting rid of players that I thought really helped improve their team.
Carlos Boozer drove me crazy
He did.
on that team.
The guy could go out, easily put up 20 to 25 a night, could shoot the lights out, could get the rebounds, and then the next night he might go 0 for 10 to start the game.
Always, very frequently a lack of intensity from Carlos Boozer,
Yes.
which really bothered me.
And you look at the other side, his counterpart, and Joakim Noah, who is like the king of intensity. You're just like, why doesn't any of this rub off?
Yeah, Taj Gibson is very
Same as
intense
well,
too.
yeah.
So I'll take that. I love the Pau Gasol addition. This is a guy that can stretch the court, allow some of the lower guys to come out on his deeper shots, and have Joakim Noah down low to pick up offensive boards. I think it's going to be a great setup for them. I'm really excited to watch them.
Oh, me too.
I'm really excited to watch Cleveland too. I'm not going to lie. I just have to go with the core right now before I see what Cleveland's capable of doing. And what I'm really worried about for Cleveland is defense.
Yeah.
So,
well, this must be the Buffalo fan coming out in me, because I don't think the Bulls are going to win the Eastern Conference. I have them losing to the Cavs, which I think is the consensus popular pick. Nick and I did have a bet the other day that I do believe the Bulls still will be the best team standings-wise heading into the playoffs. I think they'll end up being better. They did that multiple seasons when Miami was like that. So I still think they're going to be the best team in the conference, but I don't think they're going to end up, representing the East. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
I told you, it's the pessimism.
No, that's fine. That way you're probably not going to be disappointed.
Yes, exactly.
Set your expectations a little bit lower.
Yeah, expect the bad.
Yeah.
Hope for the or something like that.
There you
hope
go.
For the best.
Yeah, you got it. Definitely.
Again, Bills fan. What do you expect? All right, Western Conference. I like the Clippers. I like the Clippers over the Spurs in this one.
I have the
And that's
Clippers.
my
I have the
analysis.
Clippers. I have the Clippers written down.
Do you really?
I do. The Clippers were my pick last year, actually, to go. All of the Donald Sterling crap happened. It really caused a distraction for me. Doc Rivers is the type of guy that can get his team rallied around and poised and ready to go despite any distractions, but this was just too much for me. It happened right at a prime point in the season. They were able to still get by the Warriors, but then having to go against Oklahoma City, that series swayed a lot. There was a lot of back and forth going on in that series. You really didn't know who was going to win. It came down to a couple tight situations that defined that series. They have what it takes. Mm-hmm. Okay, they need to become better defensively, which is my only concern for them. But offensively, I think they're the best team in the league.
Yeah,
I really do.
I mean, DeAndre Jordan,
DeAndre Jordan. I mean, when you have the starting lineup they have with Blake Griffin, Jordan, Chris Paul, a sharpshooter like Redick. You can switch out guys like Jamal Crawford and Matt Barnes. They added Spencer Hawes, which is awesome for them to have a quality big like that coming off the bench. And then they have some pieces in place that could end up coming off the bench and really improve them. They added Chris Douglas-Roberts. Mm-hmm. They added Jordan Farmar.
Yep.
They have Reggie Bullock. There's a lot of different pieces of talent there that could end up playing a big role for them down the stretch. I really like their depth now, which I think was a major issue for them at times last year.
Yeah, definitely. I see them as possibly a team that's going to be, at the trade deadline looking to add, those veteran pieces to propel them if they need it. But those are the top teams usually end up doing that. So finals prediction, I got the Clippers beating the Cavs. So
I have the Clippers beating the Bulls.
All right, so we're
fine.
all about the Clippers.
That's pretty crazy that we're both on the Clippers.
Yeah, it must be that Buffalo Braves connection, back in the day.
Definitely.
It's got to be.
No
that.
way it's anything other than that. has nothing to do with my NBA knowledge.
Nope, nothing. All right. MVP.
I'm actually rooting for the Sacramento Kings this year because they are
the Rochester
Royals.
Nice. I like that.
I do have a Rochester Royals throwback jersey.
I actually have a Buffalo Braves throwback jersey.
And I have 2 Rochester Royals hoodies as well. I found a Rochester Royals store online.
That's awesome.
Where they collectively take all the different brands that make Royals stuff and put it in one spot. It's pretty great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's what the show
is. And I'm pretty sure I heard that they are doing 3 throwback nights.
Yes.
Hardwood Classic nights.
Them, Toronto, and Indiana are all doing those. Toronto's going to
have those. So I'm going to
awesome.
be getting some more Royals gear, which is awesome.
You might have to order me some.
Yeah,
well.
Okay, fine.
All right.
You'll pay for it, but I can order it
that's
at the
fine.
same time.
All right. MVP. Is there any dispute here? Or?
There is. Yeah.
All right, let's hear
I
it.
have a little bit of a dispute.
Okay.
I'm taking Derrick Rose.
Oh, man. Are you sure you're not the Bulls fan in this room?
This is something that I've been thinking about. I did this morning. I was looking at this, and I thought LeBron James seems so obvious.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I take LeBron James? But then I kind of felt like there is just so much going on with that team, and there is different than Miami, where Dwayne Wade had a ton of injuries. Chris Bosh was relegated to just an absolute support role.
Yep.
Not, the big three became the big one pretty quickly. And it's not going to be like that. You got two guys in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love that are both very young. They're going to have very significant roles in the offense. And I think LeBron is going to really look to be a big distributor this year. Mm-hmm. And, that's great. I just don't think he's going to be able to put up the same types of numbers that he has had to put up.
Yes.
Especially last year. Derrick Rose is coming back. Even though they added Pau Gasol, he is still coming back to that same type of situation where these are all amazing supporting members to a star, which I think is one of the keys to success in the NBA. And he is going to need to be relied upon. So if he is able to stay healthy, I think he'll turn back into that guy. He will be that guy. He already has an MVP under his belt. He's got the opportunity to do it. If they end up going to the finals, he should be MVP.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Well, that's not exactly true. I am not taking Blake Griffin, but Blake Griffin was another guy that I've been really thinking about because the way that he's been able to improve his game over the past year has been unbelievable. Everybody thought he'd be, a one-trick pony, just being able to dunk the ball, do really fancy things going up for the ball, alley-oops, but he's really put together the whole package.
Definitely. I obviously had LeBron James on, but I had kind of like a second tier. I got Rose in there. I also have Chris Paul in there. I think that's he's not the most efficient scoring point guard, but what he does for that team, what it means MVP to most valuable player.
Well, he is actually extremely efficient. He just doesn't put up those types of numbers.
That's what I mean. He doesn't put up the numbers.
From a percentage, there's no guy that's more efficient in the league in terms of doing the right things with the ball at the right times. He's just the type of guy that he has really smartened up. He has really gotten to the core of his game. He waits till the postseason. He waits for the big matchups where they really need to get a big win, where he needs to take over. Otherwise, he's operating as the distributor. He'll always put up big fantasy stats, but it's tough to have a guy get that type of credit as an MVP unless they're putting up over 25 points a night.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's not going to be the guy that's doing that.
Well, I'm excited especially about Rose because Noah's improved his game from the last time he was basically healthy. He was an MVP candidate at some point last season. Butler stepped up his game, and they've really got pieces around him which now can propel him to even higher superstar status if there is even one. All right, let's move on to the Rookie of the Year. There's a lot of options. This was a pretty healthy draft, I felt, and a lot of teams took guys in weird places. A lot of teams took guys in places where I was like, wow, it's a great fit for him. So who do you like for his Rookie of the Year?
I like opportunity. That's what I always like. Mm-hmm. Michael Carter-Williams was able to take this thing down last year. Nothing better than an opportunity to play with the Philadelphia 76ers. When you're a high pick that goes to a bad team, you've got your chance if you're able to perform. I'm going with Jabari Parker.
Okay, that's who I had listed down as well. Obviously, he is up with Milwaukee, and it's pretty consensus across the board for a lot of the experts. A couple other names that I wrote down. One guy who I completely forgot about, obviously, and that's why they put him down, was Nerlens Noel in Philadelphia because he's going to have the opportunity to play. He is technically a rookie because he didn't play at all last year, and coming out of the draft, he was highly touted as the guy who's going to lead this team.
I do not have a problem with that pick. Anybody that's going to be able to get the kind of opportunity and play to actually lead a team is an option.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Coming out of the break, we're going to finish up with our NBA preview, give the last few awards, and we're just going to kind of wrap everything up. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show here on 105.5 The Team.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
We are back on the Star Fantasy League show here on 105.5 The Team.
You're killing me.
How's that?
I mean, you actually did a good job with this NBA stuff. I don't know if you could have elaborated on it much more, but you had some pretty good picks in there.
All right, fair enough. Here's the thing. I grew up loving the NBA. It was the sport that I actually watched pretty much as football. And, I could talk NBA. Over the last 10 years, it's kind of besides my team's been pretty good the last few years. But before that, it was, terrible to watch them. So I've kind of fallen out of the product, and I got more into hockey. So that's kind of like where my fanfare has gone. So
You don't look like that today, though.
no, I am sporting
You're pretty
my full,
decked out.
Got my Jimmy Butler shirt straight from Chicago. I'm pretty pumped.
Like Jimmy Butler.
I do. And did you know you can play fantasy basketball season and daily on our site now? You knew that. But
I do. I know that we're the only daily site that offers both.
That is true. But our listeners might not have known that. And actually, you can play right now at starfantasyleagues.com. You can sign up. You can use the promo code
Free 14.
That's-
FREE 14.
That is correct.
Okay.
For 100% up to $2,000 and an $11 credit. So you're getting free money to start the NBA season, which is more than some of these fans are getting back if they're watching Philadelphia.
Yeah,
so.
we've already got over $3,000 in guarantees just over the next couple nights.
Yeah,
So-
definitely. And don't forget about our football games as well. We got $15,000 guaranteed for Week 9. There's a lot of teams on bye, especially if you're a Bills fan, so why don't you jump in the fantasy game as well?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to be okay with taking a break from the Bills this week.
Yeah.
I'm very happy. 5-3 I'm very happy that our break is at Week 9, so that it's actually like the half of the season.
Yeah, not like Week 3 or
Right.
4 like some of those teams, and you're like, oh, now I got to watch 15 straight weeks of my team.
We get it right. We get it right at the halfway point. Take a little breather and get geared up to go right back at it.
Definitely.
With Kansas City next week. So
Yes, so excited. All right, we're going to wrap up with our NBA predictions for the season. Surprise team. This can go a lot of different ways, but I kind of want to hear where you, the expert, are coming from this.
I've got the Pelicans.
Okay.
Okay, I absolutely love the talent on the Pelicans and the additions that they've made. They've got Drew Holiday coming back from injury. Anthony Davis,
Yep.
has gained 15 pounds of muscle.
He looked great
in the
in
offseason.
FIBA.
I just saw him on SportsCenter this morning. He looks enormous.
Yeah.
He looks jacked.
Yeah.
He can do it all. Ball handling, everything down low. He can make three-pointers rain. He's unbelievable. They added Omer Ashik, which is a great addition, a guy that plays awesome defense. And then they've got Eric Gordon also coming back healthy. Tyreek Evans, you put those guys that's a very formidable starting lineup, and I think they could make some waves.
Yeah, I thought about them as well. Looking at their season preview and looking at what they did last year, I got a couple teams. One team out west, even though they did make the playoffs last year, it was kind of a struggling year for them. Was the Dallas Mavericks came in as the 8th spot. Actually gave San Antonio the best run for their money in the playoffs last year. Somehow they just matched up well. Maybe it was two old teams basically going against each other, and that's kind of the style that they were playing. But they did lose Jose Calderon, which is a big loss, I feel, for them. But they did bring back Tyson Chandler, which I think is a great move.
Yeah, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Dallas is there at the end. Or near the end, rather. I don't think they're going to make the finals, but I think there's a decent chance that they get to the conference finals. They added Chandler Parsons. Even though they ended up losing Calderon, they got Jameer Nelson, which is a great pickup from Orlando. They got Raymond Felton. They're picking up the little man Barea again.
Yep.
So, they have a very, very solid team, and you can't underestimate what Tyson Chandler does for them. He is one of the main reasons that they were able to beat the Heat
Definitely.
years ago.
In the East, I like Charlotte this year. The Hornets, I like what they did bringing in Lance Stevenson. I think they're going to compete for a top 4 or 5 spot in the East.
All right, I'll take my Pelicans against your Hornets.
Ooh, that'd be a good
Since
fight.
those are like the interchangeable teams anyways.
That'd be a pretty good fight in real life too. So
Pelicans are no longer the Hornets, and the Hornets are no longer the Bobcats.
definitely. Well, if you didn't know that, you're probably not doing fantasy right. Take it easy, guys.